Okay, now they can hear. Everybody can hear. It's getting recorded on my computer and we're good. So, and you're good there. Yes.
So like I was saying, when I started my coaching business, I just wanted to put together a framework, and I wanted to put together just a culmination of everything I've learned. And so this is where this program came about. And today, y'all are the first to get module 1. There's 6 modules, the rest come later, but I just thank you so much for being here today and listening to me get through the first rendition of this. And so maybe a little bumpy. In your handout, there's information about me. Y'all can read that later. Y'all all know me. But I want to start, I can't start my story, and I'm going to weave my story throughout this module. And so I got to start with I'm not going to go way back. I'm going to go back to my adult years, not before then. And so from the age of 27 to 43, I was a military spouse, as you can see here. 3 kids, the deployments, the moves, and everything that goes with that, you can imagine. So I had to put my dream on the back burner. I was very ambitious, always very ambitious, but I found it just too difficult to work and raise 3 kids when you're having to move and learn a new place and your spouse is on deployment. I'm a little ADHD, those of you that know me. And so I can only do like one thing at a time. So for me, it was the kids and the home for that season. And so that was 27 to 43, I believe, is 17 years or 17 years. Is that 17? 17 years that was my life. Looked a little like this. Living someone else's dream, right? Someone else had the dream destination. It was my ex-spouse's dream destination that I was along for the ride. Most of the time I look like this. If I had makeup and hair done, people were like, where are you going? I'm like, nowhere. I just, I rarely had both hair and makeup done. I rarely dressed up. This was me. And then when I got super ambitious, I decided to work at the kids' school. And that's what I did. I worked at the kids' school with a bunch of 3-year-olds. So you can tell by the look on my face. Can y'all tell? I was a little ragged and worn out.
Exactly the same.
The same.
Yes.
Oh,
Like that, Penny.
zoom in. I was really.
I always tell her she's the only person I know who the older she gets, the better looking she gets. Like,
That's what a divorce would do to you. I'm telling Amy today, like, well, like when you're single, you got to work a little harder at it. So anyway, so that was my life for a good 17 years or so. And then when my spouse was getting ready to retire from the Navy, I decided, okay, it's time for me to go to work. And you would think after putting my dream on the shelf for so many years that I would be ready, right? And I was ready, but I chose something safe. I chose teaching, not safe probably, but that's what I chose. I'm like, I'm going to be a teacher because they're not going to look at my resume. They're not going to see the 17-year gap. And, who doesn't need teachers? Like, we need teachers. And so I went to graduate school in Hawaii and I got my master's degree in educational technology. And we moved to Texas. Got my dream home. Show you a picture. My dream home. Don't live there anymore. Looks like a resort, right? That's at Eric Fossum Magic right there. That was when we had it on the market to sell. So anyway, we moved here to New Braunfels and I started my student teaching, and I learned very quickly that I was not going to get to be a teacher. There were so many things that were like, not for you, not for you, not for you. And I didn't listen. I just kept at it. And then when I was all done, there were budget cuts. I mean, when in the history of education, maybe now will be some, but when in the history of education, you heard of there being budget cuts, and they weren't hiring. They were not hiring teachers. I thought, I played it safe. Like, I'll be a teacher. Everyone needs teachers. I was even going to do the math and science gig, which was in demand. Like, and no, budget cuts. I'm like, if that wasn't divine intervention, I don't know what is, because I can't imagine, I love teachers and God bless them for everything that they do for our children. But COVID would have killed me. COVID would have killed me. I just know. So God knew better than me. And so I got into real estate, and boy, did I get into real estate. I loved real estate. And I was a growth junkie. Don will tell you. Don and I have been on this journey for a while. And had my dream house, right? Had my dream house, had a great job. We were traveling. The kids were doing well, going off to college. Everything was great. And something inside of me, I had like this stirring inside of me, like, yeah, this isn't it. This isn't quite it. Something, you know, and it wasn't that I wasn't grateful, because most people would be like, get over yourself, like, why, you know, stop being sad, you know. My grandma came to visit. This is yeah, that's what we call grandma in Greek. Yeah came, and she's crocheting. That's all she crochet all the time. And she took one look, and my dad said to her, yeah, aren't you proud of your daughter? Look at her beautiful house and all this, you know, her kids and this and that and the other. And she looked up and she said to me, you know, you could have had a third of this and given the rest to the poor. Oh, like, God, everything I'd ever learned was dream big and, you know, make a goal and double it and, you know, and now I had all this and my grandma was like guilting me, right? But she had a point, like, I knew I had something to give, you know, and as it turns out, and I went on this self-searching journey, and as it turns out, you know, it's not giving money to people, right? When you give money, what did they say about when you teach a man to fish, or give a man a fish, he eats for a day. Teach a man to fish, right? So I had that mentality that I'm going to share my gifts with others, and I'm going to teach people how to fish, teach people how to do real estate, teach people what I learned in professional development and growth, even teach people how to use technology. Whatever it was, I was going to share the gifts that God blessed me with, and that's how I would give away 2/3 of everything I have, which I thought was way more valuable than giving people money. So I started on this journey, and I came up with this whole program. And I mean, it has taken me a long time. People are like, come on already, you know, you're procrastinating, you're fearful, you know, just do it already, just, you know. But there was a reason, every step of the way, there was a reason why it took me so long. And so I came up with this program, and I'm going to go through it today. And first, I'm just going to go through all the concepts in case I don't get through them all. So it starts with waking up, right? It starts with waking up and realizing, like, this isn't it. You know, I've been living someone else's dream, or I've been doing what is safe, or I've been doing, you know, what I always thought I wanted to do, but turns out maybe this is not it. And so it could be that you're ultra successful, but something's not quite right. Or it could be that you haven't reached that level of success, something's missing. But you're waking up and you're going, okay, something's got to change, or something's got to give. And so we're going to talk about the difference between a dreamer and a dream weaver. There's a distinct difference. Then you need an operating system. Just like a program in a computer needs a whole operating system. It can't be just you. It's not just you. It's the whole world around you that you're having to deal with. So you need an operating system. Got to prepare mentally, emotionally, spiritually, getting grounded and clear. Got to clear the crowd. So I prayed and I said, God, you know, like, what am I supposed to be doing? I couldn't figure it out. And I prayed and I said, you know what I need? And I said to God, you know, because they say you got to tell them exactly what it is you want. So I said, God, I need clarity, and I need confidence, and I need courage, and I need wisdom. God spoke to me. You know how people say God spoke to them, and I'm like, did he really? Are you sure? You know, can't be too sure. But if I were sure, I'd say, yeah, he spoke to me. And you know what he said? He said, I already gave you all that. I passed it out at the very beginning. Where were you? I gave you all that. But you went on your own journey. me and you just did your own thing, but I gave you a purpose and it's inside of you already, and I've equipped you with everything you need to bring it to fruition. And I'm like, okay, I think I was absent that day, or I'm not really clear. I don't know what you're talking about. Can you just give it to me again? Just tell me again, spell it out, because like I'm a kindergartner, just tell me exactly what I need to do. And he's like, no, 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 no. Because that's not how God works, right? He doesn't just hand you, he sent me on a journey, right? He sent me on a journey. Well, the first thing I learned was I needed to clear the crap. That's a whole chapter in today's program. I had to get rid of the things that you all have something inside of you, and it's buried underneath a bunch of crap. The critics, right, that said, oh, that's a dumb idea. Like, what? Like, really? My dad, when I showed him what I was doing, he said, people pay money for that? Like, yeah, people pay money for this. So the critics, the chaos, the competing obligations, and I'll go into it a little more in a minute. Then you need to generate awareness. You need to figure out, like, what is holding you back? What is going on? And a lot of this has to do with your emotions. So we'll talk about that. Then you need to solidify the dream destination. A lot of us have like a vague, like I remember getting into real estate, and people are like, what's your niche? I just want to do real estate. You gotta solidify.
Sorry, that's me.
Hold on,
come
back. I think it'll come. Yeah, it goes in and out.
It's in your book too. It's in your workbook. You gotta figure out exactly where it is you want to go, and it's okay if you don't know. Take a step, take a step, take a step, and you'll figure out. You'll get feedback, and you'll evaluate what's going on. You'll review, you'll realign, and you'll figure it out. But start taking steps in that direction, and it'll come to you. So it may not be entirely clear right away. Then you're going to shift into gear. This acronym, this is an acronym that I made up for how to actually, it's your system. Enlist a pit crew. You're going to need some friends to help you, and those friends may come in the form of a therapist, a coach, or a mentor. And we're going to talk about the difference between those two. And a lot of times, we think our friends are going to be that, and they want to be that. But they're just not equipped. They're not capable. They're busy living their lives too. And a lot of times we're pouring out to our friends, and they're like, they want to give us a big old hug and make everything better. And they just can't, right? They just can't, because we don't even know how to make everything better. So we can't expect them to. So sometimes we need outside help. This program too is a diagnostic tool. So it's not only like, here's what you do to get on your journey, here's your strategy, but it's also a diagnostic tool. So if things aren't quite aligning, you can go back and go, like, what is going on, and find out what's holding you back, so that you can get back on the road going further, faster. And then getting back into gear. The gear acronym is something you'll visit repeatedly. We'll talk about that more in a sec. So remember I said there's a difference between dreamers and dream weavers. I bet we're all dreamers, right? We all know how to dream, right? We all do the vision boards at the beginning of the year, right? We love dreaming. I love dreaming. The dreamers, though, stay in the safety of their imagination. They just stay there dreaming away, never really taking action or taking small steps in that direction, but never really going for their real big dream, right? They spin in inspiration. They're constantly motivated, inspired, excited, but they lack getting into action, right? They always dream about, well, someday, the 10-year goal, the retirement goal, the someday goals, and they get stuck in uncertainty. You guys, I have a love affair with certainty. Like, I want to be certain. I think that's what kept me stuck for a long time. It's like, I don't know if this is going to work. I don't know. I don't know if I want to put all this time and effort. What if it doesn't work? I got to break up with certainty. Dreamweavers, on the other hand, they are motivated by the thrill of possibility, like anything's possible. Like how Dawn talks about abundance, right? It's like, why should we stay here in the lack when we could be thinking abundantly? Like, why not be pulled by possibility, not by like lack and what we're lacking, but what's possible. They navigate with intention and drive. They get up every morning going, yes, I'm gonna make this happen. Like, oh, I had a couple setbacks, but I'm gonna get back on the road. They pursue their dreams with purposely, and they move forward with confidence. And so how do DreamWeavers do that? This is your invitation right here to do this. This is your invitation to stretch beyond comfort, to feel more deeply, give more generously, become fully who you were meant to be, to live your life with purpose, create something that is yours and deeply impactful, to trust your voice, and to leave a legacy that reflects your values. You know what? We're all busy building a life, and we're all concerned with what we're going to leave for our loved ones. And I'm here to tell you, it's not what you leave for people, it's what you leave in people. So be thinking about your legacy as what you're going to leave in people. And now, while most of this program sounds very career driven, about a career, doesn't necessarily have to be a dream that involves your career aspirations. It could be your dream for your relationships, how you're going to grow your relationships with friends, family members, your children, your grandchildren. I'm getting ready to be a grandma in July. It could be something philanthropic. I'll share a story with you here about my parents. So my parents are 79, only 20 years older than me, 79. So I'm going, oh my gosh, this is me 20 years from now. I'm looking at my future. And they are ridden with every health ailment imaginable. Dementia, which is the worst one, high blood pressure, heart disease, cancer, you name it, the whole shebang. And it's been so difficult to watch. But what I've noticed is it started long before today, right? It started a long time ago when they lost their purpose. When they worked so hard, my parents are immigrants, Greek immigrants, and they worked so hard to have the American dream, to have all the things. And they sacrificed their health, right? It really did damage to their health. And then once they retired, that was it. They lost their purpose. They didn't have a reason to get up in the morning. I mean, they got up, my dad would get up and would sit in front of the TV and watch CNN all day. You know, I mean, I kid you not, he had trouble going from the couch to the bathroom, or the couch to the refrigerator. They just lost all their purpose, all their will, they started losing friends. They just started losing the will to live. And after that happens, well, then disease finds its way in. You know, they didn't exercise, they didn't eat well, they argued, they fought. It was just, and I'm watching that going, gotta have a purpose, gotta have a purpose. And even if it's not a career-driven purpose, even something philanthropic. I've made a lot of friends lately in the New Braunfels community that are retired, and they're out there doing things for the community, and it's so inspiring to watch because they have such gifts to give. And every time I see that, they're my parents' age, right? And I see that, I'm like, oh, if only my parents had a purpose, I think they wouldn't have been as sick as they are right now. So that is another reason why I created this. So like I said, you need an operating system, right? When you have a computer and a program that runs in a computer, it runs with an operating system. So think of you as a program like Microsoft Word, your Microsoft Word, and you can't run without the computer and the monitor, the whole system. So I created a system, and my whole program is like this driving analogy, being on the road, having pit stops, being on a journey. And so I've had really fun playing with this. I live in metaphors and analogies. I don't know. It just helps me explain my world. It's more fun. All right. So the operating system in my program is you are the driver, right? You're in charge of your life and the road you're going to travel, the journey you're going on. So you're the driver, your consciousness, your self-aware self, the present, attuned, and fully in command person, the driver, right? You got to be present to drive, hopefully, right? Then you've got the destination. So the destination is your dream, whether it be, again, a career dream or something you're going to do in your community or for your family. So you got a dream, that's your destination. The vehicle, the car that gets you from point A to point B is the strategy. So the strategy is the vehicle. That's what's going to get you to the dream. And the itinerary is the actual plan. Gotta have a plan. So when we're talking about the critics and the crap, here they are in their full glory, all with a C word. Funny. Critics. So critics are those voices inside your head, both internal and external. It could be your own voice, right? Telling you that, yeah, not a good idea. What were you thinking? You know, I don't need to expand on this. You know what I'm talking about. The chaos, everything that's going on outside the world, right? Just turn on your social media. There's plenty of it there. You know what I'm talking about. Competing priorities. Somebody told me. Computers. Can I get them off? Okay.
There you go.
All the distractions, right? Gosh, we have tons of distractions, right? That's the chaos. The choices that you make, yeah, that's a lot of crap too, right? You make a choice and it wasn't the best choice and you play it over and over in your head, you regret, you lament, all that stuff. Clear that crap. It's done, it's over. You made a choice, it wasn't great, get over it. Not that easy, I know. I'm not saying it's that easy. The clutter being any outdated beliefs you have about yourself, like, I'm not a morning person. Have you ever tried? You know, just any kind of beliefs, any excess input, stuff that you just don't need. You know how a computer has cache, what they call it cache, C-A-C-H-E. And when it has too much stuff, you got to clear the cache. You got to get rid of the stuff that's slowing the computer down. I think of in our car analogy, I think of it as excess baggage, right? Even on an airplane, if there's too much baggage, it creates a drag. Conditioning, all those patterns, this is the way you've always done things. And this is the way I wrote, when people who say, well, this is how I grew up. How I grew up. My mom, that was her excuse for my dad's behavior. Well, that's how your dad grew up. It's not that he doesn't love you, that's just as good as he can do. Just false, right? Any constraints would be like obligations that you have. Well, I gotta be here and I gotta do this and I got, you know, that you put on yourself, right? You gotta learn how to that magic word no, right? So we gotta clear all that crap. And then it's time to start generating awareness. Now, here I'm talking about your emotions, having some awareness for the emotions that come up. So you're on the journey, right? We talked about the driver, and we talked about the vehicle being our strategy. And guess what? There's passengers in that car. And you're like, no, this is my journey. No. There's passengers in that car. Doubt, fear, worry. They're coming along. We try to stuff them in the trunk, or we try to leave them at the pit stop, you know, we try to leave them at home. No, they're coming. They're coming with you. But guess what? Love and joy and happiness, they're coming too. They're coming too. They're the ones that, you know, you do carpool karaoke with, and, you know, put the top down, the cruise on, you know. Yeah, they're coming too. And the problem is too, is that those negative emotions and your positive emotions, they're battling it out like your kids in the back of the car when you're going somewhere and they're fighting, and you've got to learn to keep the peace, right? You've got to learn to keep it cool. You got to learn to get those emotions under control. Like I said, you can't like leave them at the 7-Eleven, you know, you got to get them under control. So here's a system where you pause, like, okay, right, pull over, right? Pull over. Take a pause. Take a pause, because those emotions, they're all sending you a signal. Doubt, fear, worry, they're like, danger ahead. And it might be true. You might have to proceed with caution. Or it might be that you have to silence that doubt. Like, okay, thank you for the warning, but it's going to be okay. I know it looks scary, it's not anything you've ever done before, but it'll be all right. So sometimes you have to recognize that you're in control. Process that emotion, name that feeling. Where's it coming from? Where's that doubt, fear, worry coming from? Process it. Name what you're feeling and notice where it shows up and what triggered it. Because it's not going away, remember, it's on the trip. And it's gonna keep coming back unless you learn to have a different response. So interpret, ask yourselves, what's it trying to show me? That maybe there's a reason why it's here, like maybe there's some truth there. Maybe I need to reflect a little bit. Good thing I'm pulled over to the side of the road, pausing for a while, so I can reflect and then choose your response. I don't know if I put that, oh yeah, I think I did put it, well, it's in here. One of my favorite quotes is in here about responding. Viktor Frankl. Does anybody know who that is? Man's Search for Meaning. He wrote Man's Search for Meaning. He was in the Nazi concentration camps, and I really got to learn his story a little better. It's his quote that I really like. Sorry. Anyway, the quote went something like this, that in between stimulus and response lies this space where you get to choose how to respond, and therein is where your power lies. And a lot of times we react. And we react how we've always reacted. And what happens, right? When they say you keep doing the same thing, expecting different results, you keep getting the same path, right? So you got to stop and choose a different response. If you know those emotions keep coming up, you gotta choose your response. Pause, reflect, name it, and choose a different response. Okay, how am I doing on time? I'm just rolling through this. Okay,
Halfway there.
so we're getting ready for our destination, right? We're not even on the road yet. You're like, man, when does the dream start? You know, when you're like, come on, like you spent 2 years putting this together. I don't have 2 years. I want to get on the road today, right now. This doesn't have to take 2 years. Actually, it took me way longer than that. But we do have to recognize where we've been. And we do have to give some credit to the seasons in life that we've already been through. Survival. Does anybody remember being in survival mode? Oh, what did that look like, right? Every time I think of survival mode, I think about looking under the seat cushions for change and going to, remember when Taco Bell used to have the 39, 79, 99 menu, right?
Yeah.
I remember in high school, you could go to McDonald's for $2.
$1.99.
Yeah. And so survival, right? Like having just enough to get by. We've all been there. Okay, were you following your dream back then? No, you were busy trying to survive. Okay, you get a pass. Okay, stability. Okay, you start working. You got a little money. You can maybe move up to I don't know. What's another water? So you got a little stability, but still, you're having to. You don't have time to follow a dream, chase a goal. Yeah. Again, you're stable, but there's no time to pursue something new and invest a lot of time and effort to follow a dream when you got obligations. You might have kids, or you might have a very demanding job, and so you're just trying to stay stable. Then you finally have some security. Now you finally can put in that 401k, you finally can buy a house, you're starting to feel a little stable and secure. But again, I ain't got time for dreams. I remember when I first moved into my dream house, I spent all my time, as you can imagine, in my yard. I didn't have time to do a dream. I'm busy landscaping my yard. So whatever security looks like for you. Then you're finally successful, right? You're going on the vacations, you're going out to eat, and you're enjoying life, and you finally have some success, like I did at the age of 50, when I had a thriving real estate business. My ex we were still married at the time. He was doing well, the kids were doing well. everything was great, and yet something was missing. And that would be significance. We all want to feel some amount of significance. That's, and not everybody gets to this stage. Very few get to this stage, and not because they're lacking ambition or they're not incapable. It's because it requires more than just having the drive and the motivation. It demands awareness. It demands really asking yourself the questions. And you know what? People don't want to go there. My coaching business is not going to appeal to a lot of people because they don't want to go there. They don't want to know where they lack and what they need to fix. Or they don't want to think about the dream that they abandoned. Like they abandoned it so long ago, they just want to let it be. They have a good life, everything's great. So they're happy, right? And they don't want to go here and dig up all this crap. It's ugly, it's messy and it's ugly, but when you get to the other side, it's very rewarding when you finally get to the other side. Significance is where your soul takes the wheel. It's where your life leaves a legacy, and you're not just chasing dreams, you're living in alignment with who you were always meant to be. Remember, this whole presentation today was going from aimless to alignment. And so many times that's what we're missing in life, is that we're not aligned with who we truly are. We're following someone else's dream. We're choosing someone else's way of doing business, especially in real estate. I remember when I started, I'm like, oh, expired? I'm going to call expires. And I would do that. I'm like, didn't quite, what am I getting? Oh, door knocking? I'm going to go door knocking. 10, 10, 10, and 10. Is that what they say? Like, you have an open house and you door knock all? No. Cold calling. I'm going to cold call. I'm going to do the circle prospecting. That worked for Jane. It's going to work for me. No, like every time we look to adopt someone else's strategy, we fail most of the time. Maybe we're successful, but it's unsustainable, right? You got to look deep within and decide what works for me. Do you know what? I really like people. We talked about this in our group, right? But we were talking about like, do we really have to be on social media? Well, not everybody. That may not be your gig, but your gift may be developing relationships, like real relationships where your client, I guarantee you, if you call them because they're going through a tough time and you take them out for coffee, that's going to go way further than your TikTok video. Call and reach out and make a real connection. Now that's just me. Again, that's my strategy. You might be going, there was an agent I knew. She's like, no, put me behind the phone. If I never have to touch someone or hug someone, the thought of, for me to say, come out for coffee, she'd be like, so it's not for everyone. The point I'm making here is find what speaks to you. And that's when you're going to have a thriving business that you can enjoy because you're doing what you love and you don't wake up one day going, oh, I gotta make 20 calls today, or like, oh, I'm behind on my numbers, find something that really speaks to you. Take the time to do that. So, like I said, there was a strategy. Now we're getting to the strategy. And that's what the rest of the course is about. So this is just like the step one, the real overview, getting the driver ready, getting your dream in check. The whole system, modules 2 through 6 are the gear framework. And what that is, I consider them waypoints. They're stops along your journey. All right, a pit stop is not necessarily like you're in the pits. A pit stop is where you stop, you realign, and you get what you need to get back on the road. So think of these as pit stops, waypoints along the road. First, you're gonna, and they don't go in order, even though I say first, they're in order here. They don't have to go in this order. And I'll talk about that in a minute. But before you get on your journey, you need to generate some clarity, right? You need to figure out where is it that I want to go for your business. It's like, who am I serving? Am I doing listings? Am I doing buyers? Am I doing investors? Am I doing who? And you know what? If you're like, oh no, I'm doing everybody, go ahead. Like that's what I did when I first started. I'm like, oh, a niche? Like, why can't I do everyone? Anybody that wants to buy real estate, and that's fine because you'll narrow it as you go along. Don't wait to have complete clarity before taking the step. have some clarity. I want to be in real estate. Clear enough. Okay, and then get going. You'll figure out the rest as you go along. But you're gonna need some confidence, right? Confidence is insane trust in yourself that I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm gonna figure it out. I know I'm gonna figure it out. I know I'm gonna be successful. I got this. That's confidence. But the way you cultivate confidence is keeping those promises to yourself. Because the minute you start letting yourself down, like when I said, I'm releasing this course on April 25th, and I knew all week long, if I don't do it, I'm not gonna have confidence that I can get things done, because I'm sending a signal to my brain like, oh, you said April 25th, but here we are, April 25th, and you're not ready. You know, so don't break those promises you made to yourself. If you plan to go to the gym at 5 a.m., you better go to the gym at 5 a.m. Like, don't make promises to yourself that you cannot keep, because that's what's gonna hurt your confidence more than anything. Then courage. Okay, in the courage chapter, I love this because we think like, I'm brave. That was Dawn's book, Step Into Your Brave. You know, we're all brave. We're like, I'll make the call, I'll go on the appointment, I'll plan the event, I'll do whatever it is, I'm brave. But fear sometimes shows up in ways that we don't really recognize. Fear shows up as procrastination, distraction, you know, like scrolling, you know, all of a sudden you're like, oh, you know, I'm out of time. Like, no, you got some fear working. Content, in the content manual, we talk about the content you consume and the content you echo. At first I said the content you create, but not all of us are going to be creating content, some of us, but we all share content somehow. So what you echo out into the world. So real important. And then commitment on. And then commitment. So these are the things. And so do you recognize they came from what I prayed to God for? Except I changed wisdom to content, because it was more than with me gaining wisdom. It was also the wisdom that I was going to be sharing or echoing back out. And then I added commitment, because gosh, if you're not committed to pursuing whatever it is you've got stewing, then it's going to be difficult. So the rest of the waypoints, I'll just go over real quickly. Once you generate all that clarity, confidence, courage, content, and commitment, then you got to evaluate your choices. This is where you decide your big why, your mission, vision, values. You decide, well, how am I going to cultivate confidence, and how, you know, who needs to go? Who is breaking my confidence? People, places, and things that are hurting your confidence. They need to go, right? Clear the clutter, clear the clutter. Then discerning. Oh, you guys, the best thing you can do for yourself, like here's an action step that you're going to take today, is curate that Facebook feed or Instagram feed. Curate that, right? Anybody that's like makes you go cringe, like unfollow. You don't have to unfriend. You can stay friends, and just like you don't have to see them every day. I have a fellow agent that is constantly going, oh, did you see what so-and-so posted, so-and-so? She's comparing herself to these other agents that are boasting about their production. And it's like, have you ever stopped to think that maybe their production really isn't all that? And maybe those numbers look really good, but they paid a lot for those leads. And so their profit margins aren't that great. And so curate that feed so you don't have to see it. There's a lot of positive stuff out in the world. I had to get rid of all the politics. Like if somebody starts bashing either side of, you know, either side,
Yeah.
they're gone. Especially if it's like just nasty. Goodbye. So curate your feed and then figure out how you're going to stay devoted to your mission. Activate. Okay, we're ready to get into action. Finally, we're ready to get in. Now these phases, they don't have to last a long time, but it's something you should be doing repeatedly, right? When you wake up in the morning, get some clarity. What am I doing today? Today is a day of rest, so I'm not doing anything. Okay, that's fine, because there's a place for rest in the program too. But anyway, we're ready to get into action. So during the action phase, you'll find the things I chose to put here, you're like, what's up with people? You're taking action, and you're tired, and you're overworked, and you're stressed out, and you're doing it all. That's when you have to find people to leverage to. When I learned the leverage word, I'm like, whoa, like a good business owner knows when there are things that are draining their time, they're gonna give it to their VA, that's why Dawn, I keep picking on Dawn. That's why,
Use me as your pincushion.
that's why Dawn's videos look so great, and she's leveraged some of that, right? Right?
You think they look great?
Well, they're consistent, that's, they're consistent, and the way she has the, just the way she has all the graphics and whatnot. She loves her VA. She'll tell you all about it, right? Game changer, right? When you did that.
Yes.
She could be editing, she'd take a million CapCut classes, and she's like, oh, my VA's gonna do that.
And you know what's funny is like all those things that you said right there, like I went through all of those with each VA. I have 4 VAs and each one specializes in something now. Because I have to do everything that you're saying over and over and over again.
It is the best thing you can do for your business.
Until you get it right.
And then what you have to realize, like, I don't have any money to hire. You don't have money not to. When you think about the money that you're losing, because when your VA is doing that stuff, or whoever you get, your teenage daughter, or whoever you get to do whatever, it frees you up to go make some money. And that's where agents make a mistake. They're like, I'm getting an assistant, or I'm getting a transaction coordinator. And then they're out floating the river. It's like, you've got a transaction coordinator, so you can go on more appointments. But it's okay, yeah.
So real estate while I'm floating.
It wouldn't be necessarily, yeah.
I met one of my clients at the river. She was one of my first clients here in New Braunfels, and I met her at the river.
Okay, I get
So it is.
But the other thing about people though, is not the people you leverage to, but your relationships, okay? Make sure that you are paying attention to your relationships. Your spouse, significant other, your friends, your family, your relationships, because again, I'm going back to my parents. They were working so hard that they neglected their relationships. And then when they retired and they wanted to have those relationships, well, it was a little hard. So you get what you get. Enough said there.
You get what you get, you don't throw a fit.
The other thing I bring up in the activate phase is your personal health. That's also another thing that goes. You guys, if you're not sleeping, if you're like, oh, I can do it on 4 hours of sleep, it's not a good thing. And you think you're jamming, but you're really hurting yourself in the long run.
I think it's me.
So your personal health, that would be eating, or I call it nutrition, not so much diet, nutrition, not just what you eat, but what you're not eating, right? Like be mindful of not only what you take out of your diet, but what you're putting in and making sure you get the proper nutrients. So eating, moving, not exercising necessarily, moving all day long. Getting up after 90 minutes of deep focus work, getting up and moving. And, I'm gonna do a couple of, it's funny because now I go around everywhere and I'm like, are you doing squats again? I don't know, I figure I could get in a few here and there. And sleeping, eating, moving, sleeping, those 3, but then also hydration. I struggle with that one, and stress management. So pay attention to your health, and then personal habits. The last one, recalibrate, is where another one that we don't do enough of, right? Where we rest. It's funny the things that come to me when I'm still and quiet, and God said, be still, and I'm like running a million miles a minute. Even when I'm resting, I'm like thinking and processing, but when I'm truly still, that's when I get the biggest downloads. So rest, rejoice, like celebrate. You had a crappy day, celebrate. It's over. You had a shitty day and it revealed something that you got to work on. You got some feedback. Rejoice. Maybe is this?
I did them.
That's what happened. It's in your book too.
Okay,
Yeah,
we'll just look at the book. You
And-
can still see it on your screen?
Yes.
Okay.
and use this time to reflect. When I teach this section has a lot to do with your emotions and managing your emotions, because it's when you're going through all the hustle and bustle, all these emotions come up: the doubt, fear, worry, the imposter syndrome, you know, the excitement, the joy, all that comes up. And so when you rest and relax, this is where I teach how to process those emotions. God knows I've had some experience doing that. Oh, actually, I went into each one individually on here, but I don't have to do that. Oh, I wanted to show y'all. Hold on. I wanted to point out again that the waypoints, right, the generate, evaluate, activate, and calibrate, they don't go in that order all the time. Have you ever, y'all do this where you got like 6 appointments?
We're back.
For a buyer, right? And you put them all in, and then you have to rearrange them, because, oh, this one can't do it till 4 o'clock, that, you know, I'm gonna put them again, and then you're having to play with, thank goodness for Google Maps and the whole, I'll show you what I mean in just a minute. Right here. So I created this graphic to illustrate. Can you all see that? Yeah. So we've got generate, evaluate, and you see, you can move them around. You can move them around and decide, well, you know what, I gotta get into action today. I don't have time for all that nonsense. I gotta just get into action. Well, you're gonna get into action, and then you may need time to, oh, what, that little pointer. I think he's over here.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
It's okay. You may decide on, I don't have time for that. I have an opportunity. I'm just gonna take it. Take the opportunity, you go, and then you may need to like rest after that. Or you may need to get right back into, you know, gaining some clarity. Wow, did that fit in with my, am I gonna do that again? Like what was the benefit? You know, how, you know, taking some time to see if it aligned with your overall mission. Or life happens, right? Life happens. You might be spending some time and recalibrate, right? I think I've been recalibrating here for a couple months. You know, just getting reset, just getting back to homeostasis, right? Getting back to where you're like, okay, everything's jiving. I can, you know, everything's under control. Somehow this came to mind, like, you know, the days when everything's wreaking havoc, right? And you just gotta, I have these days where there's havoc all around me. And what I do, I clean my garage. Gotta clean the garage. like,
Yeah.
you know,
100%
where you
yeah, too.
clean the garage.
I think about it for something you know.
Because you get a little dopamine hit when the garage looks all clean and neat.
And I will clean other people's houses so much faster.
I will clean your restroom. I can do everything else. I hate cleaning the garage and I hate washing it.
But you probably have your own thing, you know, where you just detach from the world and before getting back on the road. So we're almost at the end, and then I can take questions and we can chat a little bit. So you're not on this journey alone. Remember, we said you got all those emotions, but you also have a pit crew. Did y'all see my video where I said I'm gonna start having pit stops? Penelope's pit stops. Penelope. I'm gonna start having these things at the office where you can come take a pit stop, and you can come and celebrate a win, or say I need help with, you know, CapCut or whatever it may be. But they're gonna be like just an opportunity. I'm gonna serve lunch and or breakfast or breakfast tacos and Penelope's pit stops. So you have a pit crew. And again, I talked about it earlier, how a mentor is going to give you wisdom because they've been there, done that. Dawn's an excellent mentor. I don't know, I keep picking on Dawn, but Dawn's an excellent mentor. It's like, been there, done that. Here's what I learned. Here's what I suggest. They're going to tell you things to do because they're trying to help you. A coach is a little different, right? A coach is going to help you self-discover. Well, Dawn, like, what do you want to do? Oh, well, Dawn, if you did know, well, I just want to help agents thrive. Okay, well, how are you going to do it? You know, I'm not telling her how to do it. I'm asking her to share with me how, you know, and I'm helping her come up with a strategy, and then I'm holding her accountable to that. Okay, you said you're going to do a Facebook reel every day. You know, how'd you do? I sucked. I only did one. Okay, what happened? Well, you know, I don't like the way I sound. Well, guess what? That's how you sound in the lights, you know? You know, so that's what a coach does, right? A coach actually is gonna pull out of you, a coach is never gonna tell you, well, Tom, just get over it, all right? Just get over it, just get up.
And this is why I could never be a coach, because I do say that stuff. I'm like, that.
You're a
it's
mentor.
like, I'm like.
There's a need for all of them, but don't ever say you're one or the other when you're, you know, a lot of people claim to be coaches, and really, a coach will never, this is how you know if someone's coaching you, and if they're not asking you questions, if they're not pulling, oh, Laura has a coach. You talk about your coach all the time, and I bet you anything, he digs things out of you, and it's your agenda. And it's like, what is Laura? He's never gonna make you do something that you're like, yeah, I don't think door knocking's my thing. Laura, you're gonna door knock. You know, no, that's not what a coach does. A coach will help pull out of you, and that takes time. A lot of people don't have time. They want, you know, fast answers. So coach might not be, you know, mentor might be a better. Just tell me what to do, damn it, you know. And so, with therapists, they get to come along for the ride too, because a therapist sometimes is going to help you process what's in the rearview mirror, you know, that baggage, that it's coming with you, all those feelings, all those emotions, all those experiences that were not so great, they're not going anywhere. Like, you know, when you heal the wounds, but you still got some scars, right, and stuff. And so a therapist helps you heal those wounds, helps you process what's in the back, in the rearview mirror, and clear any emotional blocks that are getting in the way. So that's the difference between the two. So you're going to need a pit crew. So now I'm just going to share with you real quick the rest of the modules, because we don't, that's it for today. What they're going to cover. And so we've got generate, where you will that's the clarity, confidence, courage, continent, commitment. Then in evaluate, we define, we determine, we defeat, we discern, and devote. I'm going to go quickly through these because I want to get to the end. Module 4 is activate. 5 is, we've already been through this, so I'm just going to go through it. And then the very last module, at the end of the course, you're going to have an itinerary. You're going to have a plan. This is what I do for my confidence. If that's when you're, you know, this is what I do for courage. This is what's on my Facebook feed. Your whole itinerary for the trip. This is where I'm going to stop for gas. Like, this is who I'm going to go to for. This is my pit crew. Your whole itinerary. And so, just a little bit more about how I'm pulling this all together. I can't believe it's like I've got 5 minutes left. I have to tell you about the Rise Up community. So I'm packaging all this up in a community called the Rise Up community. So the full 6 modules are in there, and the community is going to be chock full of information. I'm going to have a podcast in there, like a video podcast called People of Purpose. And I'm going to find people living life with purpose. I'm going to interview them so you can see, and I'm going to find them at all stages. Don't you hate it when somebody's like, shining star over here, and they tell their story, and you're like, well, I'm going to have people that are just starting out, and people that are trying to figure it out, people that are making the brave, taking the brave leaps and making change, all kinds of different people. And so there's going to be 3 different ways you can join the community and take the course. You can do it solo. You can be like, you know what, I'm going to do it all by myself. It's the most economic version. Get in there. You have access to the community for 2 months, but the course, you could finish it in 1 day. You know, it's about 9 hours total. So you can finish it in 1 day. You can finish it. You can take 6 weeks, but you can stay in the community for a whole 2 months. Or you may decide you want group coaching. So in group coaching, exactly what it sounds like. We do it as a group. We meet once a week, have accountability. You might find your tribe. You might find people that you connect with. You know, it's for someone that needs that interaction. Or you can go solo. Partner is like me, you, one-on-one coaching. And if you do with the partner, you also get to come to the tribe too. So you would do the one-on-one coaching, and if you wanted to, you can come to the group coaching too, if that wasn't too much. So I just wanted to mention that. And that's it. Like, my final thoughts, I'm just like really excited to share this all with you, and I appreciate the opportunity that you've given me, Dawn, this is my first group that I'm sharing it with. It's been a long time coming, because I've been talking about it for forever. And I'm really excited to get to share it with y'all. And I'd love to hear your feedback and your questions. Even though look, I only got 3 minutes.
No, you're fine. If anybody has any questions.
I know I went fast, but I did not know how long it would take me to get through everything. And in the future, it would be more interactive. I just wanted to get it all to an hour, probably more like an hour and a half, to have more interaction and more time to stop. And I'm not going 85 miles an hour. But do you have any questions or?
I think you did a fabulous job.
Oh.
Yeah. I'm proud of you.
Me
Yes.
too.
I love the.
Well, you're my first title company. I'll come here at your place.
Let's go. I'm all in.
I love the traveling road analogy of it.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
really awesome.
I have to tell y'all, thank you so much. I have to tell you, so it's taken me a long time, right? And I went to the Brenda Bouchard conference, and I've been writing this for a long time. And tweaking and tweaking and tweaking. And I go to the Brendan conference, and at first it was notice, evaluate, act, and calibrate. I go to Brendan, and Brendan kept going, activate, activate, activate. He's just, he's so loud and crazy. And so I'm like, oh, that sounds a lot better than activate.
Yeah.
So then I had evaluate, activate, and calibrate. I'm like, oh my gosh, I need an 8-word for instead of what was it, notice. I even went to chat. I'm like, chat, I need a word that's end in ATE. And again, all these words, I'm like, no. None of them made sense. And I'm like, no, it has to make an acronym. Nothing. The next day I went to Brendan again. It was a 4-day conference. And we were in a small group, and he talks about how you don't have energy, you generate. The power plant doesn't make energy, it generates energy. You take something and you generate from it. And I'm like, oh, that's it, generate. And it just it's like, and after that, I'm like, oh, it spells gear. Oh, getting into gear. So then everything flowed after that. It was just magical. It was like I was meant to not release it until that. Because now, otherwise it would have been like, your dream is near. That was notice, and I was like, no, it just didn't have a real theme. Now it has a theme, and it's a little elementary, I
believe that. Acronyms are easy.
Like when I went, last night when I was finishing everything up, I'm like, oh, I need a workbook. At the last minute, I'm not gonna hear that. I'm making my workbook. I'm like, this is awesome. I could work while you do and I'm doing all this. I'm like, oh my gosh, nobody does workbooks and handouts and acronyms and silly pictures and I'm so old.
But you're not nobody.
Old school.
He's like Penny does.
Old school.
So I got a little story about Penny. I met her when I was at KW a long time ago. And let me tell you, she has always been the only one at that whole company that ever helped me with any questions or anything else that I ever needed. I could text her through Facebook, where I'm like, Penny, I have this, what do I do? And she's like, here you go, this is what you do, blah, 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 blah. When I could never get a hold of anybody else to help me with anything. So I do want to tell you that I really appreciate it.
Thank
Help.
Thank
And I'm glad
you.
that you're here, Missy. I'm like, Penny's over here too. I'm like, oh, awesome.
Thank you.
I think you should sign everybody's workbook.
Yeah, so when I was
Because when you're
Brendan stage, you could be like, we were her first.
Well, you know what?
you have Antonio Robbins.
The beautiful thing about this is that this is not only for real estate agents. If you notice, nothing in here did she even have for real estate. I want to talk for a second. Yeah, I want to talk about comparisonitis really quick though, because there's some of you that are here who are watching Penny, or you're watching me do this, and you're like, it could be, if you are in comparison with somebody else, you're not paying attention to your own journey. Like, part of the classes that I teach, I talk about in every single one, I'm like, don't compare where you are with where somebody else is. When Penny and I first met, we were both at KW. Like, I would walk through those halls at KW and the doors were always closed. And I always thought, man, if I ever figure out what they're doing on the other side of those doors, I'm gonna share it with the world. Because I am and guess what I've done? And guess whose door was always open? So we've been friends through different brokerages, through everything. And I'm so grateful that you're part of my journey. Like you, and I'm proud of you. So super proud of you.
Thank you.
But
Taking a while.
remember, if you're on step 1 and she's over here on step 10, she was on step 1 too. And that's the thing about real estate in this business is there's no end, there's no finish. You can be okay down here at level 1. You can be a part-time agent, you can have 5 deals a year, you can have 1. It doesn't matter. Stop comparing yourself to what all these other people are doing over here and figure out where you are and where you're stuck or what you need to do to break through to that next level. And there's always a next level. I always think, man, I'm there, I got it, but I'm like, man, then I'll break through a ceiling of achievement and I'm like, holy shit, like there's a lot more over here. Like this step has a lot on it. And then it just opens it up when you start focusing on you and what your gifts and what your talent is and what you can do. So,
Well, that's the thing about your destination. It's and you can only focus on the stretch of road you're on, right? You can only focus on this, do what you need to do and then sometimes you get to that destination and you're like, anybody ever go on vacation and they're like, yeah, I'm gonna look at all like the brochure, like what's the deal, And you get there and you're like, this is not at all. And that's what happened to me on my journey at several of the stops along the way that we won't mention again, but stops along the way. It's like not aligned. Like, and you can feel it when it's not aligned. It's like going on a vacation and going, well, I guess I'll have another margarita and make the best of it. And that's what we do in life. We get to our destination, we're like, this is what I always wanted. Okay, but it doesn't feel right, but I'll make the best of it. And we make the best of it. And we live a good life and we make the best of it. And that's fine. But there's more. There's more. So
thank you so much.
thanks again.
Great job. Great job.
Thanks again.